Today we're standing outside of Kilo 1, a Minuteman missile launch control facility located in Bates County, Missouri. It was active between the early 1960s and the early 1990s. And this particular launch control facility oversaw 10 nuclear-equipped Minuteman missiles. There was another facility just like this in the southern part of the county. And when I was a kid, about 10 years old, I'd ride my bike up to this gate and talk to the security people that worked here. They were the ones that came out. They'd bring us cold drinks and ice cream. And we'd ask a lot of questions about what went on here, but they really wouldn't ever tell us anything. But in all the years since, I've done a lot of research about what happened at this facility and others like it. And today we'll go inside and take a look and see what that was. This particular room here was the security room. The security people that I talked about that would come out to the gate, they were the ones that oversaw this facility and all the Minuteman missile silos in the area. And they worked out of here. There was radios and consoles and all kinds of stuff where they could talk to the outside world. And their primary job was just to provide security for this base and the Minuteman silos. However, we'll slip into here. I'm standing on a very solid chunk of concrete here. There was a big hole here with an elevator shaft that went down about 90 feet from what I understand. And this is where the missileers would go down in, I believe, 12-hour shifts down the elevator to two pods down below the ground. One pod had all the equipment in it where they would actually fire missiles, and the other pod was where all the HVAC and environmental controls and stuff. There was a generator down there. In fact, they could self-sustain down there for a long time. Anyway, this particular room is where the elevator was at that went down to the underground pods where the missiles were actually fired. Yeah, let's do this. This room here is where the commander stayed, the base commander, if you will. He got a very special room. It was the nice room. And by the way, this facility was all under the control of the 509th Bomb Wing of Whiteman Air Force Base over at Knob Noster. This big room here was a rec room. They had pool tables and stuff like that in here. It's also where they sat to eat. This room here is actually kind of important too. It's kind of dark in here, but it was a communications room. It was a room where they would communicate with the government and other launch control facilities above ground. And of course, this room had a lot of radio equipment and that type of stuff as well. And we'll mosey down the hallway here. This particular room, before we go there, this whole facility was self-contained. They had a well outside the fence over here that pumped water into a tank that's below ground right here. And these pumps and controls and all that stuff was part of what they used to, process their own water here at the facility. Yeah, we'll mosey down the hallway. Here's the kitchen. They had, there was about 10 people that stayed here at a time, 10 or 12, including cook. This was a kitchen, all 1962 decor. Back here we'll find the restrooms, showers, and some of the living quarters for the security. Back here's where the living quarters were at for all the security people and anybody else who was stationed here. This little closet actually had medical supplies and that kind of thing. More rooms. Of course, the vandals have been here. Yeah. So the building, as you can see, is built a lot like a house. For early 1960s construction, it's very well built. It's all done with 2x6 studs. And again, was made to look like a house, although the Soviet Union definitely knew it wasn't. This particular room was interesting. There were phone lines that went from here to every missile silo under its jurisdiction. In fact, you could pick up a phone and dial anyone who was in one of those missile silos working. And that's what this room was, the phone room, they call it. And this room here was just the rest of the HVAC equipment, that type of thing. Strangely, a lot of the stuff's still in here. A Big Daddy water tank, hot water heater.
Damn.
Air conditioning. Everything in here was run off three-phase power, which most houses are not run that way, but this particular place was, which I'm sure made it very interesting to work on.
Very cool.
Now we'll take a look at a few of the things outside here that made it interesting. Of course, when I was a kid and I came here, this was all mowed off very nice. There were a lot of blue Air Force trucks sitting right here. Over in the weeds over there, you can see a white thing that looks like a ball. That's a UHF antenna that they used.
What'd they do with it? What was it?
Well, this particular antenna was used to communicate with aircraft overhead. There are planes that have the ability now to launch missiles, whereas it used to be just the launch control facilities to do that. This was put in so they could communicate with those planes. It's a big chunk of aluminum that goes very deep in the ground, and it was something you definitely didn't want to touch when it was on because it would burn you. That's what that is. There's a helicopter landing pad right over here. And every 3 days, the helicopter would come in and bring in the new crew, missileers and everyone. I remember seeing the helicopters come in and they would land, and we'd watch the people get out, and the other people would get in and they would leave. The helicopter landing pad's right over there. Take a look on the other side. There's a few goodies over there too. And of course they had to have a little fun. They'd come out here and mow the yard, of course, and we'd see them often playing basketball right here. Very popular pastime for those stationed here. I'm standing on this concrete pad right now that used to have a radar pod on it. This was one of the few LCFs around here that had that, and it was used for the helicopters coming in and going out, and it was probably 50 feet tall with a radar pod on top. It's now been donated to a museum, but it was very visible from the road. If you look over there, there's some air handling ductwork and that kind of thing. That was the ventilation for the pods down below where the missileers stayed. Also here somewhere is an escape hatch. That in the event of getting bombed, those downstairs could get out. They opened a door, sand would fall out of a tunnel. They could climb up the tunnel and get back to the surface. I haven't located where that's at here exactly, but there is one here somewhere. antenna array over there on a concrete pad. Let's go over and take a look at that. This concrete pad, there were 5 antennas here. They were hydraulic. They stayed below ground. In the event of a nuclear launch and they needed to use these were the antennas they could use to communicate locally with their trucks and probably Whiteman or whoever else. The interesting thing about this is these were made that if one of them broke off, another one would shoot up in its place immediately. So the guys, when they were out here mowing and stuff, nobody wanted to walk on this because nobody wanted to have an antenna shoot up for any reason. Out of the 10 or so launch control facilities like this in western Missouri, this particular one had a tragedy tied to it that the others had not. We were talking about the helicopters flying in. Occasionally, every few years or so, they would replace the missiles in the silos. And the silos are located around here in a roughly 10-mile radius or so. And they would bring in new missiles and set them in the silo with a special truck. And with that, whenever they hauled a missile in a truck, they had a helicopter escort. Well, in 1982, the summer of '82, a helicopter was following one of those escorts when a piece of the main rotor fell off or blew off and hit the tail rotor and damaged the helicopter. And it happened several miles to the west of here. They were trying to get back here to land, but they didn't make it. The helicopter fell apart, crashed, killed 6 people as they were trying to get back here. And I remember some friends of mine witnessed all that happening, and they came and got me out of bed that morning, and we went over there and we tried to get close to the fire and everything. And of course we had military police jumping out of trees and stuff saying don't go near this, and it was kind of crazy. But for anyone who wants to see something like this that's still in its live form, there's a LCF that's still on site at Whiteman Air Force Base in Knob Nostra. It's called Oscar 1, and you can go online, look for Oscar 1 at Whiteman, and you can arrange to get a tour where you can actually go down the elevator and all that. Part of that tour is a memorial that's been dedicated to those people that died in that helicopter crash. So what I'd advise is this: if you're anywhere in the area, I would say go over to Whiteman and take a tour of that and see what this was when it was in its heyday.
So thanks for anybody who watched the entire video. This channel is going to be a mixture of all kinds of things, stuff like this, moto adventures, you name it, projects, whatever you can think of. That's what it's going to be. This video, I really wanted my dad to participate in and kind of lead the thing, because well, this place we're talking about and showing you is right up the road from where he grew up and where I grew up. So, you know, he got to live through this stuff, see it all happen in the Cold War era. And yeah, we appreciate anybody who watches this video. And if you could subscribe and hit the bell notification to hopefully see more cool stuff like this. We have other plans to go and show other interesting things that people probably haven't seen before, like this. So thank you, and bear with us. Our editing skills and videography skills aren't the greatest, but we're trying to improve on that. So thanks.